Imagine a frozen wasteland deep in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. 9 experienced hikers vanish into the snow. Weeks later, their bodies are found scattered across the mountainside, half-dressed, mutilated, some with crushed skulls, others with missing eyes, and even a missing tongue. No footprints of an attacker, no sign of struggle, just silence and death. To this day, more than 60 years later, no one truly knows what happened on that night. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident. The year was 1959. 10 young hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, 9 students and 1 older guide, set out on what was meant to be the adventure of a lifetime. Leading them was Igor Dyatlov, just 23 years old. Intelligent, ambitious, and disciplined, Igor was admired by his peers. With him was Zinaida Kolmogorova, always cheerful, always lifting the group's spirits. Rustem Slobodin, athletic and determined. Lyudmila Dubinina, outspoken, fiery, just 20 years old. Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonyshenko, close friends, known for their humor and bravery. Nikolai Thibault Brignol, quiet but strong. Alexander Kolovatov, reserved and thoughtful. And finally, Semyon Zolotaryov, a mysterious 38-year-old war veteran who joined the group at the last minute. There was also another member, Yuri Yudin. He began the trek with them, but due to severe joint pain, he turned back early. Later, Yuri would say, "If I hadn't fallen ill, I would have died with them." His survival was pure fate. On January 25, 1959, the group began their expedition into the Ural Mountains. Their goal, reach Mount Otorten, a peak whose name in the local Mansi language ominously means, "Don't go there." At first, everything was joyful. The hikers sang songs, played mandolins at night, took photographs, and wrote diaries. In their pictures, you can see laughter and youth, their smiles frozen in time, unaware that these would be their last. But by January 31st, the weather changed drastically. Blizzards raged. Temperatures dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. Visibility was almost zero. On February 1st, the group decided to camp on the slopes of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl, the Mountain of the Dead. Why they stopped there, no one knows. Maybe Igor wanted to practice camping in harsh conditions. Maybe they lost their way. That night was their last. Days passed. The group was supposed to send a telegram back to their university, confirming their safe return. It never came. Families grew worried. Soon, search teams of students, volunteers, and military personnel were sent into the mountains. On February 26, 1959, almost a month later, searchers finally made a horrifying discovery. High on the snowy slope lay the group's tent. But something was terribly wrong. The tent was collapsed and abandoned, its fabric slashed open. Not from the outside, but from within, as if the hikers had cut their way out in panic. Inside, their belongings remained untouched. Warm clothes, boots, food, even personal journals and cameras, it looked as if they had fled in the middle of the night. Barefoot, half-dressed, into a deadly snowstorm. But why? What could drive 9 experienced hikers into such madness? Searchers followed faint tracks leading into the forest. About 1.5 kilometers from the tent, at the edge of the trees, they found the first 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonyshenko. They were lying near the remains of a small campfire, dressed only in underwear and socks. Their hands were burned as if they had tried desperately to grab burning branches for warmth. Nearby, broken branches suggested they had climbed a tall cedar tree, perhaps to escape something, or to look for their missing friends. A few hundred meters away, the body of Igor Dyatlov was found, lying in the snow, facing the tent, as if he had been crawling back. Not far from him lay Zinaida, her face frozen in determination. Another distance away lay Rustem Slobodin. His skull showed signs of a fractured injury. These 5 hikers had died of exposure, but something darker was yet to be found. It wasn't until 2 months later, when the snow began to melt, that the remaining 4 hikers were discovered in a ravine deeper in the forest, and their condition was shocking. Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue. Her eyes were gone. Her body showed signs of internal bleeding, with broken ribs, yet no external wounds. Semyon Zolotaryov had his ribs crushed, his chest collapsed, as if hit by a force beyond human capability. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol suffered a massive skull fracture. Alexander Kolovatov was found strangely well preserved, though with injuries that didn't match an avalanche or simple fall. The doctors wrote, the force required to cause such injuries would be comparable to a car crash. But no footprints, no attackers, no signs of struggle were found. The mystery only deepens when you ask, what caused this? Avalanche theory. Some investigators claimed an avalanche forced the hikers to flee in panic, but experts argue the slope was too shallow, there were no signs of snow movement, and their tent was still visible on the surface weeks later. Military testing theory. Others believe the Soviet military was testing secret weapons, parachute mines or high-frequency sound experiments. Strange glowing orbs of light were reported in the sky that night by other witnesses. Could the hikers have stumbled into something they weren't meant to see? UFO theory. Some say the glowing lights were UFOs, and the injuries too strange for earthly explanations. Burned skin, missing eyes, missing tongue, all reminiscent of alleged alien encounters. Paranormal theory. The mountain's name, Mountain of the Dead, and local Mansi legends of forest spirits fuel theories of a supernatural force. Did something ancient awaken that night? Cover-up theory. The Soviet Union quickly closed the case, calling it an unknown compelling force. Military documents were sealed, and families were given vague answers. Some believed the truth was buried forever by the government. Only Yuri Yudin, the man who turned back due to illness, lived. All his life he carried the guilt of survival. When shown the belongings of his friends, he broke down crying, saying, if I had been there, maybe I could have helped, or maybe I would have died with them. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case. Their official conclusion? An avalanche. But once again, experts and families were not convinced. Too many questions remain unanswered. 9 young hikers entered the mountains, filled with laughter and life. They never returned. Their bodies, broken and frozen, tell a story no one can fully explain. Was it nature? Was it the military? Something extraterrestrial? Or something far older, buried in the mountains? We may never know. What we do know is that the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in human history. And sometimes, the scariest part is not knowing.